Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another seminar that is being hosted by John Q Stockbrokers. Today, we are covering the dairy sector. We are having a few technical difficulties, but we're hoping to sort them out with our other guests. My first guest today is Mr. Sasanka Perera, the current Group Chief Executive Officer of Lanka Milk Foods. Mr. Perera holds a master's degree in business administration from Buckinghamshire University in the UK. He also has a postgraduate diploma in marketing from the Chartered Institute of Marketing UK. He's been a senior sales and customer management professional for 21 years. He's been in sales and marketing for FMCG and specifically the food and beverage fields, and has worked for Unilever Sri Lanka, Coca-Cola Sri Lanka, and Maliban biscuit manufacturers. And we are very happy to see him here today. I will introduce my other two guests when they join, which I think we should be able to sort out later. One is Mr. Asoka Bandara, who is the president of the All Island Dairy Association under the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, and Mr. Dharmathilaka, who is the current chief financial officer of LMF. But just to start with, the Sri Lankan dairy industry has grown significantly. I think largely because the government has also shown an interest over the last 10 years in improving the quality of liquid milk produced in Sri Lanka. But also, obviously, over the last a couple of years, certainly over the last 4 or 5 years, we've seen major economic difficulties, and I think growth in all consumer sectors has been hampered. Where do you think the Sri Lankan dairy industry stands now compared to where it was a decade ago? And what have been like the broad challenges that the industry faced since COVID and the economic crisis? Sorry, I think we're still having technical difficulties. Bear with us, please. Hi, everyone. Sorry, but we are having a few technical difficulties. Bear with us. We should be having our guests online soon.
Sorry, guys. I think technical issue.
Hi, welcome back, Sasanka.
I think there was a slightly cut off.
No problem.
Can you hear us now? All good?
I can hear you loud and clear. So yeah, so considering everything that has happened over COVID and the economic crisis, is how do you think the Sri Lankan dairy industry has changed over the last 10 years, and what were the factors that drove that change?
So first of all, I want to thank JKSB Stockbrokers for inviting us and having this webinar on the dairy industry, and thank you for having us this afternoon. In terms of the dairy market, the dairy industry, so the dairy industry has grown leaps and bounds over these last 10 years. Significant amount of investments have been put also to this industry because most of the developed markets have already evolved and moved on. As usual, Sri Lanka is slightly behind in terms of moving into the dairy. Still, most of the consumers are fixed on powder. But over the years, the noise in terms of bad publicity for powder has also made a significant impact in terms of the dairy industry increasing. So because of that noise, the bad noise which has been created, dairy industry has got significant growth year on year, and we are beneficiaries of that growth for this last 10 years. So it's an interesting curve that we are in right now, and we see, huge potential as Sri Lanka expands, as the market expands. This industry will be a significant contributor as consumers evolve and people evolve. We see a huge transition of consumers from powder to dairy, fresh milk. So as this momentum continues, we see good growth and potential coming in. Yeah.
Hi, this is welcome, Mr. Asoka Bandara. Thank you for joining us, and I'm sorry about the technical difficulties that we've been having. Mr. Asoka Bandara, to introduce him to you, ladies and gentlemen, he is the Group Head of Corporate Affairs and Strategy for the Maliban Group. He is the current President of the All Island Dairy Association under the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce. And he has also worked for the global multinational Nestle in strategic roles like head of national sales and having headed 2 SBUs in marketing, and was a VP for business development within the dairy value chain. He also headed Delmage Forsyth as the group managing director, and has spent basically an entire career in the dairy industry. And so I was going to ask you also, sir, when you look at the last 10 years, we have received a lot of attention both from the government and from the private sector in improving liquid milk production in Sri Lanka. But also having said that, we've had a hammer blow to consumers because of A, the COVID crisis, and B, the economic crisis. How have things changed over the last 10 years, and what were the factors that drove that change?
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Naveen. If you see the contribution of the local milk in 2010, the collection throughout Sri Lanka was about 250 million liters. Now, this figure increased up to about virtually doubled within a period of 10 years. By 2020-21, we were collecting about 500 million liters. That was adequate for about 40-45% of the Sri Lankan milk consumption. But what happened, unfortunately, post-COVID and also due to the economic recession, collection has dipped again. Now, currently, it's about, say, anything between 400 to 450 million liters. So that momentum has sort of stifled down a bit. We can do this. That's why I always say that. You have a party here, our colleagues from Lanka Milk Foods and Abevilla. This can be done, but this has to be done in step-by-step basis. So, for example, in All Iron Dairy Association, what we are trying to see is that with this journey, if we can go up to about 700 million liters in Sri Lanka per annum. Now that journey, if we can do it year after year, every year we bring in 50 to 75 million liters. I think then we come to about the Sri Lankan requirement, 2/3 of the local requirement can be met. But it's a journey. It's a journey that we have to work, we have to persevere. Yes.
And
Just want to add to.
Yeah, sure.
Just want to add to Asoka's comment on that. Sri Lanka has been struggling in terms of dairy producing and getting the output. If you take the local government authorities in terms of the NLDB, the output of a cow comes to about 5 to 6 liters, whilst we contribute to close to about 32 to 35 liters a day per cow. So there's a significant gap between the local farmers and what we do. So I think it's a lack of expertise and the knowledge which has to be drilled down to all our farmers. So if we can contribute together and work together on this, I think the industry can play a significant role in terms of transforming from powder to dairy. So that is where we are at. So as a category leader, as a frontliner, we have a lot of students who we train on a monthly basis, coming from universities who are based in Ambevela. So we train them, we build them, we guide them in terms of modern day dairy. So as a contribution to the government, to the country, that is what we do as a company.
In comparison to regional markets, how does Sri Lanka stand in terms of dairy consumption? And like, what are the factors or what are the drivers in recent years that has led to higher consumption of liquid milk?
So, I mean, most of the neighboring countries like India and most of the Asian countries have already evolved. Like I said, we are still stagnant in powder. If you take the European countries, they have already moved on. The contribution is close to about 95% of the contribution is fresh milk and not powder. Whereas Sri Lanka, we are still at about a 30%, if I'm not mistaken, Asoka, and 70% of fresh milk and 70% contribution of powder. But the ratios are changing, the tide is changing. So we have a lot of work to do. I mean, the president was with us about a month ago, and one of the questions that I raised to him is what is his point of view in terms of fresh milk growing in Sri Lanka. So his point of view is also that fresh milk should lead, powdered milk should reduce over the next 5 to 10 years. So I think the government is also aligning to that trend, because all our countries have evolved and moved on to fresh milk, and powder milk is actually reducing. So Sri Lanka now needs to start running faster to change those ratios so that we will have good, healthy fresh milk to drink.
And
Asoka, if you would want to add to that?
Yeah, I think Sasanka is right. But there's also, don't forget, Naveen, this is a industry. In an industry to run, you need to have rupees and cents. So if you see where Sri Lanka should be going, we will talk about the value chain of Sri Lanka, the dairy value chain. The dairy value chain, we need to be more efficient. There are large farms like Sasanka's organization, Dharme's organization. I mean, they contribute anything between 5 to 10% to the local yield. So we need more investments like this. That's one. And as you very correctly mentioned, there are about small-time farmers, estimated around 200,000 to 250,000 small-time farmers. Contribution is 3 liters per day. So this has to go up to at least 10 liters per day. It's important, right? So what even AIDA Dairy Association, we are promoting small farmer to come to the middle level farmer, at least instead of having 1 or 2 cattle, if they can have 10 cattle, it becomes profitable. The business has to be profitable. But moreover, I think this is more complex issue, because we have been studying this for the last probably couple of decades. You will see that if you see very efficient countries like India, and if you take New Zealand, I'm not comparing these markets, but New Zealand, the cost of production of a fresh milk is much, much significantly lower than Sri Lanka. This is where you are talking about a value chain. You can't look at it in a bits and pieces. You must take the entire value chain from the input supplies to the output. You want to draw a parallel today. I think Sasanka should talk about this. The cost of producing a milk locally, uh, it is at least 40 to 50% more than what the production cost in New Zealand. So this means, if you bring imported milk powder today, it's still cheaper than the local fresh milk, which should not be the case. What we need to get our value chain tweaked. I believe India has done it very successfully. India is now self-sufficient in milk. So Sri Lanka can learn from both these markets, India and New Zealand, and get our act right. But it's very, very important that the public and the private sector, we have to work hand in hand. So if you take milk value chain, you have things like how to increase the contribution. You need to work. You must feed the cow. Don't forget the cow is a mammal. The cow is a milking virtually a mother who's giving milk to a baby. So she has to be fed properly. She has to be given the water. She must be given the fodder, right? And there has to be a certain cycle of feeding these cows. I'm not talking about the large farms. I'm talking about the 80% of the small farmers who's contributing to the Sri Lankan economy. So these farms has to be profitable. So this is where it's a public-private partnership. The large farms, they are given an excellent example. So it can be done. It can be done. So that learning, as Sasanka mentioned, that learning must cascade down. So AIDA is doing a lot of workshops. We are promoting with our NGO partners how to run an efficient farm and then to make us some money. So it's a journey. That's what I said. So we really promoting a public-private partnership in this core, Nabi. Yes.
So when you're talking about costs and yields and so on, like what proportion here is the cost of feed and the quality of feed, and what proportion of the problem is, say, land area, or the ability for cattle to graze and so on.
Yeah.
How does this balance work out? Because I do remember one of the other things that was said about the dairy industry was that the quality of our cattle in terms of the genetics of the population was also bad. How did all of these factors change, and what remains to be changed?
Yeah. I think if you look at the first, if you start with the breed of the cow, now Sri Lanka, we have this, the upcountry is a milkshed area, as we all know. It's a very good milkshed area. So the yield in the upcountry cattle is much better. But when it comes to the north central, northwestern provinces where you have large herds, but the contribution is very low. So this breed has to be improved. Now, one option is to bring down New Zealand cattle, Australian cattle here. These are super breeds, but a normal farmer cannot handle that. Large farms, these large organizations, they are geared to handle it. There was experience that they brought some good cattle Frisians and Jerseys, and it really ended up in a disaster. So what we need is crossbred cows, crossbred feed. Now, in that context, we need to go into more artificial insemination, right? So this is where the veterinary services come into play. Currently, veterinary services, they do a very good job, but they are very much stretched the government veterinary services. So the private sector has to join in hand in this scope. So one thing is to improve the stock. Once you improve the stock, Naveen, the yield from 2 to 3 liters can go up to 10 liters. Okay. If you triple this output with the same amount of cattle that what you have, I think we will virtually double our output. So that is one area. Second point is, very briefly, I should say, is fodder. Fodder is in short supply. We really don't have much land in this country, but there's so much of government land available. Sasanka mentioned about LLDB. There's a lot of land available, and we have been having discussions on this. So if this land can be land which is idling, there are paddy fields which is idling. If then can be converted into fodder, I think that is also a profitable business. Now, there are farmers who's cultivating fodder in this country, and they are earning 200,000 rupees, 300,000 rupees a month. So it's a lucrative business. So that's one area, is to work with the government and get more fodder cultivation areas. Estates is another area where we can think of. So that's on the feeding side. Then on the transportation side, again, our transportation is very, I should say, in a crude way, because milk is highly perishable category. Now you keep a glass of milk on your table, Naveen, within half an hour you can't drink it. It attracts bacteria. So therefore, milk has to be transported very fast to the collections, from the collection center to the chilling center. Now this infrastructure, this is where the private sector has to invest more and more, work with the government. So the quality of milk improves. The quality of milk that you get improves. So that's why I mentioned the value chain. This is an excellent value chain study that should require a very careful attention.
And if you look at the in terms of expansions and the ability to have sort of government policy drive more of this change, what would you look to see from the government? For instance, Sasanka, when you met the president and so on, like what were your sort of main kind of requests from him?
So, one, I mean, we are at full capacity in terms of our farm in Ambevela. In terms of if we are to expand, we cannot expand because there are limitations in terms of space, and there are concerns in terms of water, environmental regulations. So we are at full capacity in terms of Ambevela. So our next step is to move on from Ambevela and go to another farm, a big farm. So that was a request. So we are in talks with the government to buy another farm, so that we can bring the same quality and same standard and levels of premium quality milk that we maintain in Ambevela in another farm in another area. So right now we are in conservation conversation with the president and the government to look at that. So that's what we are doing as a private organization.
Mr. Dharmathilaka, in terms of Mr. Dharmathilaka, are you there? In terms of the cost side, in terms of what you would see would be kind of a direct element that would help the smallholder and so on. Does it make sense to liberalize, say, the import of feed and maize and so on, or or do you see any potential in any other direction for regulatory change that would help the smallholder?
Yes, in the import front, that regulation reliefs also we have to do with carefully. But yes, obviously, when we take the main ingredient of maize, so mostly cheaper source in the Asia is Pakistan and India. So at any given time, when we compare Sri Lankan price versus those two countries' price is around 20 to 30% cheaper. So unfortunately, when there is a duty component and everything, still our price is less. Sorry, their imported price is less. But currently, how government behave that front is when there is a off-season period, then some traders kept their stock, and then week by week they are increasing price 2 rupees, 3 rupees. Then at that time, government interfere and they give the quota to large farmers and other industries. So at that time, around 5 to 6 months, we cover from those ingredients, those stock. But it continuously open is, then there is another problem. But yes, we have to manage the feed cost also. What Asoka Bandara told that front, when we compare to other New Zealand or Sri Lanka, there is around 40% higher. Main reason is New Zealand has enough land. Their farming is 100% grazing, whereas our front is more in the in-house farming. So that obvious there is a incremental cost component. And also same time, you can see that there is an inter-barrier also when we compare to New Zealand to Sri Lanka. Because in the in-house farming, we have to invest big capital. So build the barn and other infrastructure. So that's right. And also when we see the ingredient in the feed cost side, soya also playing the key role in the feed cost. roughly currently we are also per month consumption is around 150 metric ton. That is 100% imported, either India or USA. So those ingredients is still not available in Sri Lanka. So we have to encourage to other agriculture farmers to for enter those ingredients. But in the government and other side, there is no any incentive. So, and also we have to keep in mind with current interest rate in the normal cost, we cannot sustain in the as a new enter into this sector. It's a very difficult task. That's why in that front of so regulation in the finance cost angle also there is some 50-50 substitute should be there. That is my opinion.
And in your opinion,
So
it
just to
doesn't
add
make
to,
sense to, sorry. So you were saying, Sasanka.
just to add to, just to add to Dharmathilaka, I mean, 80% of our cost is the feed. So if we can fix that, then we can play price. So, because right now, I mean, if you take a fresh milk in Sri Lanka, and if you take a fresh milk, if you take Almarai or cow head or Ala, any of the, I mean, European brands, their fresh milk price is significantly lower compared to us. Example, now we are a group of company. We have resorts in Maldives, we have resorts in the United Arab Emirates. So all our resorts are using our fresh milk, but we just launched a new resort in United Arab Emirates, and we wanted to ship our brand over there, but I mean we cannot even compare the Ambevela price compared to the Almarai fresh milk pricing over there. It's a significant change. So it is impossible because of the pricing of the feed. So if we can fix the feed cost, that is a big win for us.
And this whole idea of expanding maize cultivation is not something that will bring costs down either.
Yes, if there is enough opportunity given by government, yes. For example, when we launched our new project in the 2018, at that time, parallelly, when we asked the environment license and other thing for new barn, parallelly we asked the 1,500 to 2,000 acres of land for cultivate for our own purpose. It means our we know that our 2,000 cow increased to 4,000 or 4,500. So then we need to double our feed requirement. But now it's almost 6 years past. Still we didn't get land because no point getting 100 acres or 200 acres. So we have to cultivate using new technology and machinery. So industry, as an industry, we have those limitations.
After the crisis and the problems with feed that happened because of the crisis and so on, how has what is the overall condition of cattle stock in the country, especially with regard to like the smallholder cattle stock? Asoka, if you can comment first.
Yeah. I mean, before I answer that, excuse me, I'll give 3 other points just to put the whole thing in the perspective. Now, Sri Lanka, the animal husbandry, if you take that, it dates back to 1000 BC, before Christ. We had organized cattle farming in Sri Lanka from the 4th century. That's 2000 years ago. 1931, if you go to the Hansard in the parliament, right? Because I was researching this. 1931 in the Senate Assembly, the leftist camp at that time also, not only now, they were telling no grass for the cows and no milk for the children. 1931. So virtually 100 years later, we are in the same position. Now see, as a country, without criticizing, because successive governments in the past was trying to fix this dairy issue and to have a coherent dairy policy. Now AIDA is driving this dairy policy. We are negotiating with the government. We are talking to the government. I think we have come virtually 80% of the way, and we must get this policy now approved in the cabinet. You see what's happening, the issue that Sasanka and Dharma was telling, that we need to have one-stop shop in the sense that Minister of Agriculture is one stakeholder. You have the Economic Minister of Finance, because that has to fall in line. don't forget you have to bring the Ministry of Wildlife, because grazing land, when you increase the grazing land, there's no space for the elephants. We are a small country, right? 65,000 square kilometers. So all these stakeholders must come into one forum. So this we are recommending. I think it's happening, but it's not happening at the pace that we need. This is why these decisions are taking time. Now we were talking about giving this excess land. No, I'm sorry, that's a wrong word. Not excess, underutilized land at NLDB, about 16,000 acres. So this is agreed in principle, but it's still not happening. So the speed has to happen, Naveen. Business cannot wait. The speed has to happen. Because while we are discussing, we are strategizing here, India is still producing largest producer of milk in the world. I mean, that's a beautiful story, no? So we need to learn
What
from
is the what are the Indian yields like?
Indian yields. I think the Indian the Saibal, the crossbred cows, they give about 10 to 12 liters.
Wow.
Because we
Okay.
have in if you go towards Anuradhapura side, Polonnaruwa side, the Kantale side, you see large herds, but these are all classical Batu Harak, what we say in our language, Batu Harak. These are small breeds. So these guys, I mean, and then they need to get the cows must get inseminated or get pregnant, and they have to deliver year on year. I mean, if you go to Ambevela farm, I mean, it's a master class in efficiency and demonstration. They will tell you how they do that, but it doesn't happen with the small farmer. So this is where I think this breed upgradation has to happen. These 200,000 odd farmers we have, they need to improve the stock. They need to also eliminate the unproductive stock, because we are running a business here. Unfortunately, I had to mention that word. So all these factors, if you combine, and the government policy has to be implemented uniform without delays. Everybody is talking about the self-sufficiency of milk for the last 20 years in my career, but we are still in the same place. I mean, okay, last 10 years we have doubled the output, but we can do much better. So these are some of the blocks. I should say some of the. These are self-imposed blocks. No, we are one country, one nation. So if we work together, we can improve this.
Sasanka, how much is chilling as a cost of production, and how much does UHT cost?
Sorry, come again.
How much is chilling as a cost of production, and how much does UHT cost, especially with our increasing energy prices and so on? What percentage of cost does it come to in terms of production?
So if you take, I think Dharmathilaka would be the ideal person to answer this question in terms of the cost differentiation.
Yes.
Dharma, can
Yes.
Yeah,
enlighten
Mr.
us?
Dharmathilaka?
Yes, I think packaging costs, when we talk about tetra packaging, so if you are taking total production costs out of around 16 to 17% goes to the packaging cost. Okay, chilling component is coming around to 2 to maximum between 3 to 5%. It depends on how long we kept, and those things depend. But yes, packaging front, there is a huge part. If we can keep it around below 12%, that should be the ideal.
Right. And this question for both Sasanka and Asoka: why is there limited entry by larger players into the buffalo milk byproduct market? Because curd is very popular in Sri Lanka, and I mean, it seems to be a very much again a smallholder driven industry, right?
Yeah, I would say it's a habit forming thing, Naveen. Curd, if you go to India, I mean, they drink curd milk. The buffalo milk. You know that even the Indian milk powder has a mixture of buffalo. In Sri Lanka, I think over the years we got used to the cow's milk taste. And if you mix it with buffalo, the taste changes because the fat content is different. So our people have been traditionally using buffalo milk for curd and ghee and stuff like that. But it's a good milk, and but it's a very high fat milk. So I think it's a habit forming thing. Whereas India, I think there's no issue here. Now I don't know whether this current generation will take, because there were many companies try to introduce milk with buffalo milk, or that did not work with the palate. But who knows, the Gen Zs and going forward, people change these things.
Yeah, Sasank, is
It's
it
a,
too niche an area for LMF as well, or?
So, I mean, in terms of our current infrastructure and development that we have, no, it's a no in terms of Buffalo. But with the new, what we are looking at in terms of our development and expansion, yes, we will be looking at that area as well.
even
Right.
Pakistan, the contribution of buffalo is, I believe, is high in Pakistan
Higher than
also.
Sri Lanka.
Yes, yes.
Right. How do you see the opportunity for premiumization and moving into new verticals like lactose-free milk or dairy-based snacks and so on? Because I think
So
one
for
thing
us
is
as
with cost of production so high,
Yeah.
maybe premiumization would make sense as well, right?
Yes.
correct. So as a category leader, we are actually looking at new innovations coming into the market because we have to lead the market. So we lead by the front. So we are looking at new innovations in terms of lactose free. Problem is Sri Lankans again. So we are doing some research at the moment in terms of lactose intolerance, and we are getting some data from some hospitals. Sri Lankans don't know whether they are lactose intolerant or not. They are not too bothered about it. So when we launch a product, there has to be a return on it as well. So that's why the expansion is not wide in terms of fresh milk. If you go to another country, an expanded market, you will see soya, you will see almond milk, soya milk, you will see lactose intra, you will see flavored multiple packs. I mean, Sri Lanka, they're used to just chocolate, vanilla, and probably strawberry. Even mango, they're very laid back. So the limit for expansion is, so we cannot go that far. It is just one or two steps ahead because we need to get the consumer bounded in as well, so that it will be easy for us to drive the volumes. But definitely, yes, we are looking at new innovations, not just fresh milks. As the consumer evolves, as the new generation comes in, we need to have newer packs. If you take Coca-Cola, for example, they knew this 15 years ago, that Coke will not bring in the volumes. They will have to launch into new innovations like vitamin water, like milk, juices, coffee. In the beverage industry, they expanded their route. So in the same way, in the dairy category, we need to expand and innovate. So that is our plan, and we will drive it. Yes.
Asoka, would you like to add something to that?
Yeah, and it's a good point. We need to understand how people drink milk in this country. I think I mentioned about 440 million liters of fresh milk, and then about you need to add about another 300 million liters with the imported milk, because imported milk also consumption came down with the prices going up. So let's say arguably 750 million liters are consumed an year in Sri Lanka with this 22 million population. Where are they using this milk? 80% of this milk is used as a tea whitener, or not really coffee, because we are a tea drinking country. You have a cup of tea in the morning, you have a cup of tea in the evening. So if you work your statistics, you will see that children up to 3 years, they drink the straight milk, the glass bottoms up type of thing. But after that, because one is the cost and then the flavor, they get more used to flavors. And so it goes on like that. So essentially, we are using milk in this country as a tea whitener. Now, for premiumization to work, I mean, we have dealt with this with the powders, baby powders, infant powders with lactose. The volumes gains are very marginal. But Sasanka is right. There's when the market develops, I mean, this is where the economy has to pick up. Today we are talking 4,000 US dollars. The moment it hits 5,000, 5,500, things start changing. I mean, you go to Malaysia, you go to Thailand, you will see the amount of variance they have. And then, so this is very important with the economic revival. Hope we are on the right track. And then if this continues, there'll be a good niche products coming where even the marketers can earn fairly decent volumes, decent profits. Volumes may not be great, But premiumization is important because if you see the income ladder today, the top, the middle, and the bottom, there's very little differentiation. As Sasanka mentioned, if you go to India, they have badam milk, right? Of course, that is habit forming as well. So hopefully, I'm also confident that over time, products with today you have yogurts with probiotics here. It's a good thing. Yogurts with probiotics. I worked with prebiotics earlier with cereals. So these concepts should come in because consumers deserve, Sri Lankans deserve these top class products. We do.
Absolutely. Does it make sense for powder for converting Sri Lankan sourced milk into powder from a economic sense because of the powder market being such a significant portion? Not, or is it cost effective or not cost effective?
This I think if I ask from my colleagues at AIDA, we have two people who's converting this to powder. Palwata Dairy, I'll mention by the name, and also Milk Industries, Milko. I think these are Nestle also used to convert that to powder when I was there, but not too much now. It doesn't make economic sense today because the same factor that we discussed, the cost of the milk. If you convert into powder, again, it's very relative. I think this powder for powder, they can do the conversion. They have the machinery, they have the spray drying plants. But then the margins will be very low because it's very difficult to compete with imported milk powder. Now the question is, if imported milk powder is less or more economical, do we tax it more to make it a level? I mean, it will have the counter reaction because at least then people today have a cheaper imported milk powder, they can drink it. But if you keep now currently imported milk powder attracts the highest duty, highest the VAT, the SCL, the port levy, all the even if you had after adding all that,
Actually, after adding everything, must be coming about 40% or so.
It's around that. It's around that. Still, that milk, if you liquidize that to a liter of milk, is still cheaper than the local milk. So it really tells you that our local milk is good, but cost has to come down. That's important. So this is where we need to have the efficiencies, as Dharme mentioned. I think these people like investors like Ambevela, I mean, they can't be waiting for the policies to change like this. There has to be consistent, fast decision making. That's important. That's important.
Can you comment a bit about the distribution of milk direct to schools? And is that a monopoly for Milko, or how does it cost the retail space in that area?
Asanka, I think you can answer that. Sasanka.
So in terms of distributions to schools, so we have our daily range, which is a flavored milk, which goes into schools. It is done through a normal general trade distribution channel. There is so in schools they prefer to have in terms of the beverage, they will prefer to have a juice or a milk coming in rather than a carbonated or a coffee coming in. So most of the schools in Sri Lanka, principals, they prefer dairy or juice coming in. So we have a significant advantage in terms of that because we have a product which appeals to that particular category of people. So it is done through a normal distribution channel, and it is not a big number, but it is a growing number. And we are continuously and consistently focusing on that category as well in terms of the students and children who drink flavored milk.
Right. And in terms of, once again, talking about the smallholder, how can smallholders use the cattle as collateral for debt? And how does the local financial system work in favor or not in favor of the smallholder?
Yeah, I think if we talk from a AIDA perspective. There are some banking instruments. Banks have extended some instruments, some facilities for the local dairy farmers, but I don't think the utilization is very high there. For in this concept, Naveen, I'll add another angle on the human resource side. You see, the dairy farming is you need to attract the youth into dairy farming in Sri Lanka. But then you can't expect the new generation to go and do what their fathers and mothers did. I think you need to make sure if dairy farming is attractive. I had seen some models in Sri Lanka, in Kurunegala, Ampara, where there are entrepreneurs, dairy entrepreneurs. So I mean, they make money, right? But they can't make money with the 2 to 3 cattle. So they are working with the banks. They are getting the funding. A bank is also guiding them. So likewise, I mean, today AIDA is working with about 100 medium-sized farms. These farms are running very profitably, not the large-scale farms like what Amayole is, but the next tier. So we need to increase the second tier. To increase that, you need funding. You need the financial backing. That's very important. But that has to happen more and more. Moreover, I think if you bring the youth, this is where the universities come into play. The agriculture universities, degree in dairying, because I mean, these guys will be wearing a Levi's jean and then going for the milking. That's fine. This change has to happen. Otherwise, the traditional farmer, that model has to break now. I mean, it's also happening to many other industries like cinnamon industry. The peelers are not, after this set of peelers die, they won't, who's going to peel the cinnamon? So we need to work on these things with the education ministry, with the universities, because otherwise, this next generation, they will not come for dairy. So this is very important. I think as Sasanka was mentioning that they are training people, which is excellent. So we are encouraging all our AIDA members to train people. But here again, we need to work together with the government. It's important.
Mr. Dharmathilaka, what is your perspective on finding capital for the dairy sector as a whole? I mean, LMF and Ambewell, obviously, I mean, your problems must be different from the smallholder, but like, what is your broader perspective on it?
My broad perspective is in the large farm separate and small farm holders separate.
Definitely.
So if you are taking the small farm holders, definitely there should be that capital source 50-50 interest cost substitute model. Because otherwise people just doing the farming, they are not focusing quality and technology. What their fathers and mothers did, they continue as it is. But in the current scenario, if we want to get the more productivity and more quality product, so definitely we have to go with new technology. For that, they have to invest. So if you are seeing in the farming industry, Kurunegala, Ampara, Monoragala, those area, most of those small farm holders is a lack of capital. So if we come out with this situation, we have to give some support. So that's why I'm saying there should be a 50-50 substitute model. Then more people come because they are seeing the return of investment. Then they encourage and they come. So then other way, actually that thing we can save for foreign exchange fund. So yeah, that is one thing. Another thing, when we take the large farmers, they had some extent resources. It means they have the ability to invest, but most of industry people has given the priority of quality. If they give the more priority of quality when we collecting the milk, and also parallelly, if we conversion to that knowledge also, those farmers, so they also give the focus on new technology and productivity improvement. For that, definitely there is some incentive scheme. It means that we are telling us agriculture, time come, lesser interest scheme like that. In the dairy farming also, there should be some scheme in the supporting with some internationals also in the local with the hand with local bank, it should come. Then people go and invest. And otherwise, in the large scale farm, one-time investment is very big. So if we are doing the investment appraisal calculation in the farming business, you can't recover within 4-5 years. It take at least 8 to 10 years. So that's why we have to give the that investment component some lesser rate. For example, in our investment, we took the loan in 3 billion, but it end up with some month in the disaster time around 80 million to 90 million interest per month. There is no any help. So that's why. So as we have huge group, so yes, we are able to manage that cost, but otherwise it is a very difficult task. So that's why we have to show the investors there is a support from regulation fund as well as capital fund.
Question for all three of you. What do you feel about one, the entry of Amul into the market, which was talked about a couple of months ago, and also the story about the Fonterra divestiture?
Okay. I think
So in terms of Amul coming into the market,
Sasanka, after you.
Yeah. So in terms of Amul coming into the market, see, Ambeveda, we will focus on our quality. We will play our game, and we will improve and expand as we move on. And Sri Lankans are more or less they are in line with what they are drinking. So shifting is sometimes takes a lot of time. But our priority will not be focusing on Amul. Our priority will be focusing more on our quality and more on our innovations. And also, our focus will be on our expansion because we are at full capacity, and buying our next farm and then expanding will be our focus. So we will leave Amul there. In terms of Fonterra, so multiple ideas have come across. I think this is our perspective of the business of Fonterra when we evaluated it. Not to buy, but to see what's happening. So 7% of Fonterra's business is on food services. Sorry, in terms of the consumer business, 93% of their business is food services. So selling off 7% of the business is not a big deal for us, for them. So when they sell the Fonterra business, the brand will be owned by Fonterra, and the powder will be had to be brought from Fonterra. So they will pay premiums for price. So I believe Fonterra will not be able to give the same pricing what they are right now in Sri Lanka, because the prices will change. It is like Coke buying the concentrate from Atlanta, where the distributor in Sri Lanka has to buy the concentrate from Atlanta. So the price, Atlanta will keep the price, whether you like it or not. But Coke Sri Lanka has to buy it from Atlanta, and there is no other way to buy it, wherever to buy it from. So it is going to be beneficial for us because Fonterra obviously has a bigger market share in Sri Lanka. So, I mean, we are very happy for this. But it will take a lot of time because they put out Australia also on sale, I think, about 1.5 years ago, and they're yet to sell Australia. And selling this part of the region will also take some time. So it's not overnight thing. It will take time, but we are very optimistic and looking forward for it.
And Asoka, you were going to say?
Yeah, I think these are too early days to comment. But you were mentioning about Amul coming to Sri Lanka, but I don't know what the transaction would be. These have been early days, but Amul should bring, in my view, from an AIDA point of view, the expertise to Sri Lanka to upgrade the small farmers. Because these farmers require some expertise, and I believe Amul has that expertise in India. They are a very large organization. If they can really help our small farmer to increase the productivity and produce efficiently, I think that's a good gain. because the idea is that Amul will work with also Milko and NLDB, or they will buy it. So these are all at this point of time, it's not very clear, the model. But they have a lot of expertise in India, I believe, and it's a very powerful organization. So what we are looking from a AIDA perspective is to bring the expertise over here. Now on the Fonterra business, yes, he's right, Sasanka, that in business sometimes you don't have emotions. You look at certain rational decisions, how to maximize your profits. But also I must mention here that Sri Lanka has been a very regulated market. Price has been regulated from year 2004 till about 2021. Milk powder is highly regulated. So most players who are in that market lost money. When you regulate, when you do price controls in one side helps the consumer from economic point of view, but there are no winners in a price control situation because the investor loses. Consequently, market has become also a bit of an oligopoly, and now I think it's coming out of it. 2021, this price control mechanism, after making a lot of representations to the government, it was taken off. I think it's a good decision because right now you have a free competition in the marketplace, and you will see that somebody will always undercut the price and then bring the price down. So the consumer gains in a situation like that. So probably I don't know whether Fonterra also suffered a lot during this price control period. I think all milk powder importers suffered. I mean, I can also speak for that. But it's an internal decision of theirs. So we are also looking at it with interest. It will change some of the dynamics in the local market. So there'll be new players and market will become more hot. Who knows, by doing these things, the market will expand. I always encourage competition in any business. When competition increases, the market expands. It's good to have more players.
Just another question from, sorry, Mr. Dharmathilaka, you were
Yes.
going to say.
Yes, what I am seeing in what Mr. Asoka Bandara told, that this continuous price control scenario, these are some result. It was earlier Nestle, they give up the powder business because we had that experience. And now, because of last, I think around 3 to 4 years, they in Sri Lanka business, definitely they didn't make money, what I believe. So at that front, so then we put into their all eggs in the basket. What is happening that other earn money also eating by this bad day. So then I think in the analysis point of view, they take a decision. That is the Fonterra side. And yes, in the Amul side, yes, coming to another liquid milk player, it's very good to the expansion of the market, definitely. And also other very important front is, I think they will support the small farmers to provide in the feed. That's what we are expecting. Their major equipment should be the feed providing with farmers and engage the business. That's how I see that business.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Dharmathilaka. And I mean, again, kind of a question from our audience. What percentage of on the retail side, when you distribute and retail, what percentage comes as spoilage in terms of the shelf life, especially for something like, say, UHT milk? What percentage is spoilage? And also, what kind of investment do you think Sri Lanka needs for its cold chain over, say, the next 4 or 5 years to bring it up to a level of, say, a country like Malaysia, for instance, or say a mid-level developed country?
Yeah, I can comment from our experience in the Ambevela. Spoilage in the Ambevela actually it's a less. Actually it is a more less than 0.5%. If you take the shelf if you see the supermarket, it is almost within the 1 month production. But product shelf life is 6 months. So it's almost hand to mouth production is happening. So in the fresh milk front, we can say it's a very minimal. Yes, in the production process point of view, definitely in the any liquid production, there is a losses. Okay, from that point, there is a 2 to 3% milk losses is there, and flavored milk also is it's also less within the 1 to 1.5% level. Yes, next question is a cool chain. Yeah, that is a difficult task when we recruit new distributor in the yogurt distribution and cheese, butter. It was not the case earlier, but after exchange rate crisis and economic crisis, investment is a huge. So when we consider a small 1 or 2 van operator distributor, he has to block lot of money. One is a cool chain vehicle, other one is a cool room, and those are huge costs. Now we are currently facing that challenge, and also we are discussing with some banks also how we can jointly give some support to the distributors.
So for a distributor, for like a retail level distributor, the investment payback is difficult.
Yeah, it is difficult. Anyway, in the cool chain business, distributor margin also normally dry product distributor margin is vary from 4 to 5%. But when you come to the cool chain, it goes to the 7 to 8%. Still, that is convincing of that distributor partner is difficult, because how they evaluate and see the thing is because they are not much. It means organized people. So it is a difficult task actually.
Right. And in terms of things like cheese and butter and so on, where does the market situation stand? Because I remember, I think cheese in particular was very badly affected during the height of the crisis. How does things stand in terms of the local market now?
See, still for premium products, still the offtake of the secondary number is a bit slow, but it's picking up over this last 3-4 months. It has been picking up significantly. But still, for premium products, what it was about 1.5 to 2 years ago, it is not the same momentum. What we see as the year goes on, as the year ends, we will see momentum coming in. In Sri Lanka, cheese and butter is more of a premium product. So we see a shift taking place, and we see a momentum increasing. So in the next 4 to 5 months or 12-month period, we will see a significant change again back to where it was probably 1.5 to 2 years ago. But it will take time as the income level increases and consumption patterns also increases. It will expand.
Premium product, but better margins.
So we are. Yeah, definitely. So premium products have always a better margin. So we are also looking at, a lot of expansion in that area as well. So as the category grows, we need to be a significant player in that. So we are looking at that in a big way.
Asoka, would you like to comment on that question? No, I think we need better cheese in this country. We need more and better variety, not better cheese, but better variety, I believe. Sri Lankans deserve that. And also nutritionally, you need these products. Yeah, right now our portfolio is powder, a little bit of liquid, and a little bit of ghee, butter. But the selection is not very wide. So I think this is important to bring more variants of good cheese. And even nutritionally, they will say that it's good to eat cheese because, of course, salt has to be reduced, but cheese is a good product to have. So we need to push these products and also bring some technology and then give the consumer a choice. It's important. Agree.
Thank you. And Mr. Dharmathilaka, in terms of CapEx plans for LMF for the next 5 years? Do you see much bigger opportunities to expand compared to the last 5 years? I suppose with the difficulties, you would see much more. You would hope to see demand coming back so that you all can expand as well, right?
Yeah, definitely. We are seeing the in the very. Most of product now we are came back to the crisis level low more actually. So yes, in the overall consumer perspective, we see there is a good movement from fresh milk, because we are doing the both powder milk and fresh milk, but we are seeing there is a double-digit growth continuously coming from fresh milk one. Yes, we have actually not only one, 2, 3 exciting plan. It is more than what we just completed one. If you are taking the next 3 to 4 years, definitely more than what we already invested and completed. We have planned, but yes, there is a few exciting plans, but currently we cannot disclose. But yes, definitely we have within next 4-5 years, because as a market leader in liquid category, whatever we are doing, we are with very much cautious for the demand also. So that's why we want to grow this category. Same way we have understand if we need to grow, we have to invest also.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen, so much for your time this on a Friday as well. I'd like to thank our 3 guests, Mr. Asoka Bandara, Mr. Sasanka Perera, and Mr. Dharmathilaka, for joining us. And we thank everybody who joined us and were patient with us with our technical issues. Thank you for listening to us, and we hope to hear more from LMF and to see exciting things from you, as Mr. Dharmathilaka just said.
Yes.
And thank you, Mr. Bandara. This has been an exciting sector to kind of cover, because it is not something that we see a lot of coverage of from an equity market perspective. And I hope this was very useful to people who were interested in dairy. I think we learned a lot of very interesting and valuable things. And thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Naveen.
Thank you so much for
everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.